Good evening, Mustangs fans. Josh Redman here, voice of the Peoria Mustangs, for this brand new, crisp, clean episode of Around the Stable. You can see this week joined by my broadcast partner, the best broadcast partner in the NA3HL, Brandon Luisi. Brandon, it seems like forever since I've even seen you. We've talked here and there, but Mustang's been on the road for roughly 45 days into November's that last home series. First things first, how was your holiday season?
Oh, it was a mess. We made a last second decision because it snowed here in Peoria over Christmas. So we made a last second decision on Christmas Day to make the drive up and go see family. So road conditions they stayed well enough for us. Actually made it in record timing, 2 hours and 5 minutes back up home.
So now I'm glad you had a good holiday season, even though it was a mess. That's what the holidays are for. We're going to knead the dough a little bit here. Mustangs NA3HL showcase come and gone. It's out the window. Halfway point of the season behind us. Into that point of the season when these points are very critical, Mustangs 4, not 2, but 4 huge points this past weekend up in Rochester, Minnesota against the Central Division leading Rochester Grizzlies. First time I went back and I dug every hole that I could dig. First sweep the Mustangs have had up in Rochester, Minnesota. Brandon, the weekend as a whole, how did you think this sweep, how does it affect the guys moving forward?
Yeah, I thought after the showcase, I mean, it was a rough few games. I think honestly, even though they had the win against Long Beach, I feel like the Mustangs played the best against Mason City. And I'm sure, the coaches and everyone else would agree there too. So the morale maybe it would have been a little bit low going 1-2 in the showcase, but going up to Rochester and having the performance they did, not only from the goaltending aspect, but also all around from offense and defense as well, blocking shots left and right and picking up 4 points against a tough Rochester team that is the defending NA3HL champion is a very good weekend for the Mustangs.
And one of the things Friday night, more specifically, and Saturday night, as a matter of fact, Mustangs getting on the board first. Friday night, 7:58, Caleb Bross power play goal. Beautiful setup. Chris Condilis to Rancilio. Rancilio spotted Bross shooting down, cutting across the left circle. Bross put it in the back of the net. Caleb Bross obviously coming back from that injury he sustained earlier in the season against Rochester. How do you think that made him feel getting that first goal back against Rochester and kind of just boom, getting things going there on the board early?
Yeah, he's been impressing me. His play recently, like it feels like he's still on that level from before his injury as well. We knew that injury would affect him, a lower body injury kept him out a couple months. And then he comes back and he's playing with an edge. He's playing, he's hard. He's getting his opportunities. He's cutting toward the net, like you were saying, and finding the right spots and scoring goals as well.
And a great awareness play on behalf of Joey Rancilio, seeing him cutting, kind of threading the needle through the low slot about to the hash marks. And Caleb Bross giving the Mustangs a 1-0 lead, 7:58. And Rochester come back, scored a shorthanded goal, but Jacob Bland said, no, we're not having that. Jacob Bland on the power play for Massimo Paulstein and SP Merck. SP Merck just throwing it towards net. I couldn't tell on video. I was watching on television at home. I couldn't tell if it made it through or hit off a body. Jacob Bland right there, kind of maybe a soldier of fortune play, maybe a good pounce on a rebound. Jacob Bland giving the Mustangs a 2-1 lead in the third period there on the power play. Jacob Bland here as of late just been in the right place, right time, and stacking up some points.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you say it, right? If you want goals, go to the front of the net, and that's what he's been doing. Even we're going to see on Saturday as well, Jacob Bland going to the front of the net as well for another goal on a rebound. So he's going to the right spots as well, just like Bronson, putting them in the back of the net.
And then Rochester tying things up in the middle period, about 5 minutes in. Third period, kind of a back and forth game. Neither team could really just gain an edge of momentum, sending this game into the coveted 3-on-3 overtime session. Cam Pendleton, the first couple minutes, Cam Pendleton, couple huge saves to keep the game going. And then the one big save he made, rebound popped out in front of him, right to Addy Powell. Addy Powell saw he had a good speed in his partner, Ethan Chesney, out there. Tipped it to Chesney. Chesney and Powell take off like their mom's coming after him and the street lights are out. They race down the ice. Chesney gives it to Powell. Powell races in just below the hash marks, tips it right back to Chesney. Chesney, a beautiful goal. I like it because it was a water bottle knocker. Mustangs 3-2 overtime victory over Rochester. Second extra time game they've played up in Rochester. Do you think that wears on their mind when they lost the shootout game in the second game of the set and then the first game, this one going into overtime?
Well, I think the boys were really focused going into this game. Again, getting that momentum, yeah, you're up 2-1 and then you let up a goal to Rochester, it's 2-2. But again, that third period, as you mentioned, was kind of back and forth. It was a very even period. But I liked how Peoria played all game, and I feel like they had confidence going into that overtime session and Cam making the big saves. I mean, I feel like that resonated on the bench and also with some of the players as well that were on the ice with him as well.
And Cam Pendleton getting the victory between the pipes, as we mentioned, 29-31. His fourth or third straight start here because he started the last two games to showcase, carried over, got this start, and got this win. And we will talk more about Cam here in a moment. We're going to fast forward to Saturday night's game, 4-1 win. Kind of seemed like it was going to be a one-goal game again as Peoria got on the board first. Once again, Justin Hubble with an absolute rocket from just inside the blue line, set up by Beckett Doyle and J.D. Duenwald. It was off a draw, which you and I talk about it on the air all the time, is offensive zone draws are super important. And this is living proof as Beckett Doyle won the draw back to Duenwald. Duenwald chipped it to Hubble, and Hubble just unleashed a cannon of fury as the puck weaved through traffic into the back of the net. A quick 1-0 lead at 9:55 of the first period. And I've said it, and I know you're probably tired of hearing me say I love when defensemen are involved offensively like that. And Justin Hubble, sometimes you see him do it, sometimes you don't see him do it. He did it here and it paid off for his third goal of the season. And that really kind of got the ball rolling and the momentum going in favor of the Mustangs.
Oh yeah, and as a coach as well, you probably love to see your scoring come from all your lines, right? If you have guys like Henry Griffin or Beckett Doyle even getting an assist on this, or Hubble, who's normally not a guy you see on the score sheet, at least in goals, it's only his third of the season, but you see contributions offensively from those guys, it's rewarding. It turns momentum in your favor.
And Rochester tying things up 11:37 of the second period. Again, after that Rochester goal, it seemed there was no huge momentum one way or the other. We head into the third period, and once again, game-winning goal this time, Jacob Bland, almost a carbon copy of his power play goal from Friday night, rebound right to him. Nobody within sniffing distance as Jacob Bland collected the rebound, put it in the back of the net from Ethan Chesney and Tristan Trudell, getting things going there. Mustangs a 2-1 lead. Rochester kind of was throwing some haymakers midway in through late in the period. And then Ethan Chesney, 1848, with the first empty net goal off of, I do believe it was off a draw. I should have rewatched the tape before we came on the air, but that's shame on me. Off a draw, there were bodies tied up. I know Sam Truxall was involved in a melee in that as well. Puck squirted over to the right wing boards. Ethan Chesney just set it for takeoff down into the back of that, a 3-1 lead. And then the one that I absolutely loved, and you've got to really pay close attention on the tape, again off a draw, SP Merck launching at probably 175 feet. The puck, I don't even think ever came down and landed, and SP Merck hands to the sky because he was sure as sure could be that that puck was going in the back of the net. His second of the season, assisted by Ethan Chesney, that 4-1 win. And that's one of those wins that feels really good. You get two empty netters there in the last couple minutes. Doesn't matter. That's all just kind of pageantry. But a weekend sweep, Brandon, how do you think these guys are riding into this coming weekend?
Oh, it's huge. I think again, as I mentioned, against the defending champions of the NA3HL, Rochester, and yes, they've been on a struggle a little bit recently, not playing to their standards, but at the same time, you get 4 points on the road and now you're coming back home. I mean, playing in front of your fans, there's nothing like it. I mean, sure, I've never laced up a pair of skates and put the gear on, but I've talked to enough hockey players and playing at home and getting that momentum going, that's huge.
And then between the pipes, fourth straight start for Cam Pendleton. He stopped 25 of 26. This past weekend, honoring Cam Pendleton, got named Central Star of the Week. He was 54 of 57 on the weekend, a 947 save rate, a 145 goals against in 122 minutes and 46 seconds of action. Moving forward for Cam Pendleton, how much of a confidence boost do you think that is for him to get those 2 games under his belt and say, I was between the pipes with Rochester, against Rochester rather, and earned the win both nights?
Yeah, I think it's really big. Cam missed some time as well, so you had Joanne Brophy and Casey Yamada for a while. So it took a little bit of time for Cam to get his momentum back and to get back into the swing of things and the structure and all of that. But these 2 wins, I mean, that's some of the best he's played all season. It reminds me of the beginning of the season. He played so well as well in the first few games, and to come back and see him play like that and play at that caliber again, he's going to ride that momentum into this weekend.
Yeah, huge pair of wins. First time in a Mustangs uniform, Cam Pendleton has gone back-to-back wins. As we mentioned a little bit earlier, Mustangs fans, this weekend, Mustangs back at home. It's roughly been 45 or so days before the Mustangs last played home. November 20th was the last home game. Wausau Cyclones in town for the first time this season. Mustangs have played Wausau only twice, and both times were up in Wausau, Wisconsin, a perfect 2-0. They've outscored the Cyclones 10-2. That includes a Case and Yamada shutout on the 12th of November. Looking ahead to this weekend, outscoring a team 10-2. You're 2-0-0, but you got to think, Brandon, in the back of some of these guys' minds that were here last year, what happened at the end of the season when Wausau came in for that very last season series, that overtime loss and that regulation loss, which I might add, the only regulation loss after Christmas for the Mustangs. How do you think that resonates in these guys' heads thinking about Wausau's coming in? Do you think they've got something to prove with Wausau coming to Peoria?
I don't know if it's something to prove, but I feel like these are 2 big games in terms of momentum, right? Yes, Wausau's 5th in the standings right now, 7-19-3, 3-7 in their last 10. So sitting near the bottom of the standings, they're 18 points out of a playoff spot. But Wausau is going to be hungry to win some games. They're going to be hungry to keep fighting and keep going towards the playoffs and try and sneak in at the end there. So if you're the Mustangs, you don't want to get complacent. You can easily look at this team and see their record and say, well, it's 2 easy wins. We've outscored them 10-2. You got to stay focused on the game plan. You've got to play with your structure, and you got to execute. That's what it is. You just got to execute.
You're absolutely correct. Execution is going to be key, especially against a Wausau team. I'm looking at Rochester, especially against a Wausau team that last year proved that they can be a snake in the grass and they can bite you on the ankle and you don't even know they're there. I mean, they can really come up and bite you. Mustangs have Wausau 6 times now before the end of the season, 4 at home, 2 more up there. And looking ahead at the schedule just a little bit, don't want to put the cart before the horse, but a big matchup against Oregon the following weekend in Peoria, and then another big matchup going up to Sauk Rapids, Minnesota, Granite City Lumberjacks. Do you think with 2 wins this weekend, collecting 4 points, that's just going to be another roll of momentum heading into the Oregon series and then just keep building the momentum like a ball rolling downhill?
Absolutely. And again, right, you look at the teams coming up, as you mentioned, Oregon and Granite City, Rochester, those teams, they're tough. Like, yes, you took 4 points against Rochester, but that's not to say it's going to happen the same next time. You still got to play in your structure, as I was mentioning, and you have 4 points this weekend. You keep getting the ball rolling, and another tough series, as you mentioned, against Oregon, and you're going to really have to play in your structure then and play a hard 60 minutes.
Well, Mustangs fans, first off, Brandon, thank you for taking a little bit of time joining us here tonight. That's about all the time we have for this episode of Around the Stable. Mustangs fans, don't forget this weekend, Mustangs back at the Owen Center. Would love to have each and every one of you out. Friday night, 7 p.m. face-off, Wausau Cyclones in town. Saturday evening, 6 p.m. face-off. Be sure to come out to the Owen Center and enjoy some Peoria Mustangs hockey live and in living color at the Owen Center in Peoria, Illinois. Until next time, Brandon, again, thank you very much for your time. Greatly appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, Josh, for inviting me on.
This is Around the Stable Mustangs podcast.